Brenda lay awake, her eyes fixed on the ceiling, her rage simmering beneath the surface. Chris had whispered her name again, Sabrina. Chris had been easy to lure in, weak, desperate, and blinded by the one thing Sabrina could never give him, a child. And when the time was right, she had secured her future by getting pregnant. Now, he was hesitating. He needed time? No. He needed her. He needed to understand that there was no turning back. If she pushed too hard, he might resist. If she played helpless, he'd feel guilty. Brenda's frustration boiled beneath the surface. Chris was slipping through her fingers, and she could feel it. The next morning, Brenda woke up alone. Chris had already left for work, not even bothering to tell her. She called him, only to be met with an insufferable assistant. Brenda's frustration was reaching its peak. She had meticulously planned the perfect moment to surprise Chris, hoping to rekindle his affection. She had woken up early, slaved away in the kitchen, preparing his favorite meal, only to walk in and find him entertaining another woman. Humiliation burned through her. But Chris wasn't surprised. In fact, he was completely unbothered, as if her outrage was nothing more than a minor inconvenience. He had warned her before. His fidelity was never part of the deal. If she couldn't accept his terms, then maybe their relationship wasn't meant to last. Brenda, ever the manipulator, switched tactics. The anger melted into desperation as she pleaded for his love. Tears, false as they were, streamed down her face. Yet, Chris remained indifferent. When she presented the meal she had poured hours into, his reaction was one of utter disgust. Garlic meatballs? He scoffed. Did she even know him at all? Brenda gritted her teeth. How dare he humiliate her like this? And then, to make matters worse, he accused her of caring more about his mansion than him. Her control was slipping, and Brenda hated losing control. In a blind rage, she lashed out, knocking over everything in sight. Chris barely flinched. He simply turned to his assistant and, without a second thought, ordered flowers to be sent. Not to her, but to Sabrina. Sabrina. The name alone was enough to drive Brenda mad. She had done everything in her power to replace that woman. And yet, even after all this time, she was still nothing more than a cheap substitute. She stormed out of the office, but her mind was already crafting her next move. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Meanwhile, Sabrina was finally finding peace. In her father's company, she was proving herself, confident, bold, and unshaken. The board had been skeptical at first, but her insights had left them impressed. She was slowly reclaiming the life that had been taken from her, but even in her newfound freedom, a shadow loomed over her. Devon, her closest confidant, knew the truth. Sabrina was pregnant. And it was only a matter of time before Chris found out. Chris had his ways. He had always kept his eye on her, even from a distance. Sabrina knew that when the truth surfaced, he would come for her. And she wasn't sure if she was ready to face him. Devon had an idea. His business partner, Martin, had once been interested in Sabrina, and Devon believed that a relationship between them would be mutually beneficial. For Sabrina, it was a chance to move on. For Devon, a chance to revive a long-forgotten business venture. But Sabrina wasn't convinced. She needed time. She had spent years trapped under Chris's control. She wasn't ready to be bound to another man just yet. As she retreated to her room, a sudden piercing pain shot through her. Before she could react, a violent force slammed into her. A woman, a stranger, or perhaps a familiar enemy, had attacked her. Sabrina gasped, helpless and vulnerable. Was it Brenda? Or had a new danger come knocking? The battle for her freedom wasn't over. It had only just begun.
Hey, I'm Sabrina. If you're wondering what happens next, download the Pocket FM app now and listen to the exciting episodes of Lose You to Love Me.